Welcome back, Dusters, to another episode of Dust Bootcamp. So, joining me, well, I'm Nick. I hope you know that by now, but if not, hey, that's who I am. And joining me, as always, is Greg and Alicia from Dust USA.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
All right. So, it's a very, very tough decision tonight. We were going to talk about SSU, but this jackwagon named Nathan decided to demand that we talk about SSU next. So I think we're just gonna skip them completely in this series now. That good with you, Greg?
Oh yeah.
That will teach him.
All right. So we actually did have the conversation about it. We almost really did skip it over for tonight, but since it was the next topic we were planning, and I at least did a little bit of reading, 5 minutes before the show, I guess we'll go with it.
Awesome.
All right. So
kindness is astonishing.
What's that?
Your kindness is astonishing.
Magnanimous, yes.
That's right.
We can't let too many people find that out. All right. So, SSU, they have Tesla and they're slow.
Yes. Yes and no. SSU does everything in the extreme. When they are slow, they are sturdy. When they are fast, they're nimble. And they can do both really, really well. There are very few references that are really in the middle. Same thing with their weaponry. Tesla, as I repeated it multiple times, is the best weapon in the game because it stuns on a wound. And that makes it really, really, really efficient to just create some disruption, in your opponent's strategy. But they also have a lot of grenade launchers. They have a radiation weapon with the Winter Child.
Oh yes,
we'll talk about obviously at a point. They have some very good Gatling guns, this kind of thing. So they have a lot of things that are really powerful, and it's an army that really allows you to vary your gameplay really easily, even inside the same faction. So, and they also have one really exclusive pattern right now. Well, a little less now, but still. And they are the factions of the helicopters. And helicopters are really different gameplay-wise from the other aircraft. So it's going to be something interesting to see also.
Yes, definitely. Helicopters are interesting. The funny part is that almost everyone I play against has aircraft, but I still have not actually played anyone when they're using their aircraft. It's been the funniest thing because, I see all these other people get beat up by it, and then, they play me and they're like, nope, not using aircraft in this one.
Well, it's because you're playing the super powerful heavy rangers that you love.
I do love them.
And they can punch aircraft. And punching aircraft is powerful.
Punching aircraft is definitely a powerful thing. Yeah. Being able to hit aircraft from pretty much anywhere is an extremely good thing because aircraft are sneaky little buggers, and helicopters are no exception.
Yeah,
because they can also just straight up hover in place.
Yes, that makes them really particular with that. They are the only aircraft that can actually sustain attack. And when most of the time, your chopper will deliver some troops or have some side task this way, but you will also have the permanent pleasure of just shooting stuff from everywhere on the table. They move fast enough. They're obviously slower than the jets from the Axis or the planes from the from the Allies, but with a speed of 612, there's still plenty enough of movement to go wherever you want on the table and shoot what you need to shoot.
Oh yeah, and actually that is one of the first ones that I see in this list, which is the air ambulance.
Uh-huh.
So medevac action.
Yes, medevac action. So air ambulance is really particular in its gameplay because there's no weapon on it. So it's really a medic that flies. It's a medic. It's a little particular because the medevac action doesn't work exactly like medic. You're going to choose a friendly infantry unit in range 1, and you're going to roll a die for each soldier that has been eliminated, and on a result of faction logo, the soldier is coming back. So it is kind of a whole platoon of medics that act at the same time from the air, so it's really convenient also. Obviously, it's only in range 1, so you will have to place your air ambulance properly. But it's really, really convenient. It's really dirt cheap. 6 points for an aircraft is nothing. And you will have also the pleasure of having an aircraft, armor 2, which means that unless your opponent comes heavily armed against aircrafts, it's a medic that will stay until the end of the battle.
And that is definitely invaluable.
It is really convenient, yes.
Because, as you said, pretty much all last episode, shoot the medic. Not shoot the officer, shoot the medic.
Medic first, officer second, yes.
So, with that in mind, one of the things that I know or I've noticed is definitely highly prevalent with the SSU is they love their tanks.
Yeah, the other really charismatic, obviously, but also emblematic vehicles are the Armor 7 damage resilient tanks, or Armor 6 damage resilient, because really the difference is really so small that it's worth putting them in the same category. These heavy tanks are, I would say, auto-include in any list that you would do with the SSU. It's a little less true now because you have more options with the army, but you still have some tanks like the Karl or the Alexander, for example, with their Tesla cannon that are really good. You have the Vladimir that is a mobile artillery that is always convenient to have on the table. You have the Mao that is one of the best anti-aircraft tank that you can find. So with advanced reactive fire. So it's really, really good. And you have my absolute favorite, albeit maybe less efficient all the time. It's the Sergei. The Sergei is the tank that shouldn't even exist because it's basically a battleship cannon put on a tank. So it's a one shot, one kill if you hit. And by itself, it won't hit that much and it can be disappointing. But it's a tank that can be piloted. And if you put the right pilot in it, cough, Nikolai, then you will have more than 80% chance of hitting anything on the table. And again, if you hit it, you kill it because it's an auto death on any vehicle up to armor 5. And on armor 6 or more, it's 7 or 6 damages. So it's just gigantic.
Ew.
So
sorry, there was a pause in the stream. I'm not sure if that was you or on your side or my side.
I don't know. The image froze, but but yeah, the Sergei is really the tank that really represents SSU to me. It's really a tank of the extreme. It's that really, you have 17 points. It's cheap. Indeed, it's only one shot against really heavy armors, but it's really, really efficient against that. So that's worth it.
Yeah, that would be. Especially since, as you said, one shot, one kill, and that goes up to armor 6 and 7.
Yep.
At that point, it does drop off a little bit, but there's not a whole lot that's armor 6 or 7 and has, too many more wounds than that, anyways.
Yeah, when you put a dent of 7 wounds in an armor 6, most of the time that means that they have 1 left, and that means that you can finish them with absolutely anything on the table, and that's really convenient.
Definitely. So, what are some of the other? Yeah, we'll leave Winter Child. I just saw him.
Yes.
He gives me twitches.
Well, we have several factions in the SSU. The main one is the Red Army, obviously. It's the Bloc by itself. Then you're going to have the Red Guard, which are really the elite troops with a lot of heavy armor or light armors, but really loaded with weapons everywhere. You're going to have the Spetsnaz, which are the elite force of the SSU, and it shows in their gameplay in two ways. They're really fast. They're really nimble, as I was saying a little earlier. They can be fragile. You're going to have armor 1 troops, for example, but they pack a punch that is really, really amazing. They also have probably the best chopper in the whole range right now with the Invader. And then another faction that you're going to have is the PLA, the Popular Liberation Army, from China, which is our brand new faction. So for the moment, the releases are limited, but they're growing up progressively. And it's also it's an army, it's a faction that actually Olivier really created as a gameplay changer for the SSU. And it's really interesting, so we'll talk about it last.
All right.
Really a fun army. So when it comes to the Red Army, it's obviously the part of the SSU that have been existing the longest. So this is where you would find the biggest number of references. It's really a typical lot of cheap infantry army and heavy vehicles to go with it. The idea is really to swarm your enemy with cheap troops that are going to be really, how can I say that, resilient, but not only resilient, but also less susceptible to be suppressed, for example, thanks to the commissar that you can attach to all these units. And then you're going to support them with walkers, the KV-47 walkers, for example, or you're going to put them in vehicles that have artillery or that can be common vehicles. And then obviously you're gonna add aircraft and tanks or tanks depending on your taste. You're gonna
yes, all the tanks.
Yeah, it's the cherry on top of the of the cake. So yeah, the Red Army has really a lot of close range weapons. Armor 2 for everyone. The average range is going to be around 3. You have obviously notable exceptions with 6 or 8 or these kind of things, but they keep them rare. It's really an army that is really, really able to face any threat. All your squads are really specialized, and you have an army that is really complete by itself. One of the units that I kind of like in this Red Army are actually the Sniper Squad, which is always funny to play, the Red Army Sniper Squad. It's one of the rare squads where you actually have 2 snipers in the same squad, when usually they have a spotter and a sniper. This one's sacrificed the spotter to get a second sniper gun and camouflage and scout. So you're going to move them basically in the middle of the table and start shooting right away. Or you move them on the table, you camo them so that they are invisible, and then you're just going to shoot every round and then camo again.
Yes. That camouflage, and we'll talk about that more with Spetsnaz.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, camouflage is an amazing thing until it's being used against you.
Yes, it's exactly that. And then you have the Red Army Rifle Squad, which for one more point adds to these 2 snipers, you will lose camo and scout, but you will gain 3 more guys that are also no joke when it comes to shooting stuff with three machine guns. So really an anti-infantry solution that is really efficient. It's really a choice, choosing one or the other. It really is a matter of how many points you have left in your list at the end. It's if you have 4 points, take the snipers. If you have 5 points, take the rifle squad. Your gameplay will be a little different, but in the end, the end game is going to be the same. You're just going to shoot precisely what you want to shoot, what you need to shoot. Again, medic and officers, and then that's one of the rare armies where you can do it all at once, and that's pretty badass in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree that can be badass. So one of the other things that is very unique to this is the commissars.
Yes, so commissars are not heroes, but they are kind of solos that you can add to a unit of the same level of armor, in addition to a hero, since they are not heroes. We'll talk about Poon later. So they're armor 2, so you will only add them to armor 2 units, which means mostly Red Army and a few units from the Spetsnaz, and 1 unit from the PLA that is going to be released soon. But they are really, their weapons are almost all the time irrelevant. They're not here for that. But the Commissar ability is really convenient. First, some of them are actually, all of them are brave, which means that their unit becomes brave also. So when it comes to removing suppression, they're going to roll an additional die to remove it. So that makes them really resilient against suppression fire. And actually, Commissar gives the same thing also. So it's really nice. And the Commissars also come back with their unit when you have reserves, because they are not heroes. So that means that it's an asset that you add to your unit, and that will stick with the unit.
Right. So the thing is, I mean, you mentioned that the guns aren't, important that they come with, but they do have a wide, variance of guns for what you can take, because they have, like they've got a guy, I would say your standard guy, just got a submachine gun.
Mm-hmm.
But then they've also got a bazooka and a machine gunner that are out there for you to take. So, there is some flexibility with them.
Indeed.
So,
it's a matter of, again, of how many points you have left. The basic Commissar is going to be 2 points. The heavy machine gun or the tank hunter are going to be 3 points. So it's really something where you have to think about what you want to do with them. Because they still have only 1 HP, and losing one because of a sniper, for example, is losing 3 points at once. It's really something that you have to think about. I confess that I like to play the tank hunter one, especially in a unit that is not specialized in that, because again, you have your Sergei that just dug a major hole in the hull of an opponent's tank, and you can finish it with a tank hunter Commissar, shooting just once, for the sake of it, and finishing a tank. So again, convenient, but you don't take the Commissar just for that. It's really a matter of making your units more resilient, adding 1 HP, adding a weapon, whatever the weapon, it's going to be good,
Definitely.
So yeah, and then you have the little fun thing, the Commissar squad. So instead of playing your Commissars as solos that you add to a unit, you play them as a squad, as an entire squad. Because they play as a squad, they lose the Commissar ability, which means that in theory you would be able to add a Commissar to a Commissar squad.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, so it's fun. It is fun to have 6 Commissars running around, one of them yelling harder than the others. It's pretty cool. So yeah, the SSU has a lot of particularities like that in their gameplay, in the way you build the army, and the options that they offer. So that was for the Red Army. Again, for the Red Army, I should mention the absolute star of the Red Army, which is Koshka. Koshka was probably the first SSU hero that was ever created by Paolo, because she was actually featured in the comic book with a very confused relationship with Bazooka Joe, half hatred, half love.
So normal, right?
Yeah, normal. Yeah.
I mean, sounds perfectly healthy to me.
Koshka is a pilot. She's expert with some weapons that she's not carrying, and that caused some confusion lately because we had an errata that was a little bit, for lack of a better word, confusing. We are correcting it right now, but basically, she's expert with the weapons of her own personal walker, Grandma. So Grandma is a KV-47, and it has a flamer on the left and a grenade launcher on the right. I should say a heavy flamer, but it's really a good walker, really efficient. With Koshka granting its expert, it becomes completely bonkers. It's a walker that is air mobile, so you can carry it with a chopper and drop it where you need. There are very, very few things that are not good with Grandma. When it hits, it kills. It causes suppression. I mean, it's a fantastic walker by itself. So, Koshka plus Grandma makes for a very nasty combination that a lot of people are gonna hate you for. And we all know that's what we play for. So
it's not for fun. It's to see how much you can make people hate.
It's about generating distress in your opponent's mind.
I love it. Which actually, and you mentioned something else that is very heavy in the Red Army. When I was looking through here, and there is a lot of air mobile walkers.
Yes, all the KV-47 that are Armor 4, I would say the winter chassis, are all air mobile. So all the TSH, for example, lost that, and they lost a point of armor. But all the classic ones have air mobile or air assault. So that makes them really, really good to be carried around and dropped, and that really creates some mobility solutions to the army. Obviously, you also have some platoons, like the Smersh platoon. Is it the Smersh platoon? Yeah, it's the Smersh platoon that allows them to be dropped like they were airborne. So yeah, that makes it really, really fun for you, not so much for your opponent. But yeah, you can drop basically 3 heavy flamer walkers in the middle of the table, close to your opponent, and if you are lucky enough that you have your second action, you're just going to burn their unit right away. So sometimes it's worth the sacrifice.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, seeing all that, and then just the vast variety of helicopters in that, there's SSU is kind of bonkers.
It is. It really it's one of these aspects of the game that I really like, is that this is an army that will really make you go up and down morally when you face it, because sometimes you will go, oh, it's okay, I can manage that, and then suddenly they're going to do something, and you're going to realize that no, you couldn't manage it the way you thought, and you're going to have to rethink your strategy completely, and it's really interesting. I didn't mention also a hero that is really important for Alicia, so I'm going to let you talk about it. Say it.
Lucky Cricket?
No. Even
oh, Lucky Cricket's not a hero, but
no.
he is to me.
Yeah, but no. Your favorite.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the do not touch.
So Reis is the elite pilot of the Red Army. Eva Kurchenko is really the megastar of the SSU. She's used most of the time for representation and galas and stuff like that to motivate the troops. But she's also a fantastic pilot, and she has her own helicopter, the Red Star, that is really, really good by
Has
itself.
the most magnificent paint job on it. Beautiful red and blues.
So the chopper by itself is no joke, with 4 rocket pods and some machine guns. But Red Ace by herself cranks it up to 11. First, the S-Air pilot means that she can have a third action while she's on the chopper, which is pretty cool. Well, actually, on any chopper, but it's really even funnier with Red Star. And then she has air traffic control, which means that she can reactivate an aircraft in line of sight.
Oh.
So she has a get moving a bunch of monkeys, but for aircrafts.
Yeah.
Which means that it works on hers.
That's disturbing.
Yeah. So 3 actions. You just roll to reactivate. Oh, and by the way, it's not an action. Contrary to get moving a bunch of monkeys, it's an ability. So you just do it. So you do your 3 actions. You roll again for air traffic control, and if you manage to reactivate yourself, you can roll again to shoot again. And again, you can roll for your third action because it's a reactivation, so it's complete. So you do the whole thing. So you can do 6 actions in the same round for 25 points.
That is disgusting. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was air traffic control, but you said it's similar to get moving, you bunch of monkeys.
Yes.
I think I had the answer to this because I was playing some games, demoing it for some people coming back, and somebody had a command squad, and they were asking if they could drop get moving, you bunch of monkeys back on the command squad.
Okay, so yes, but no.
Right, and that was I think that's what I came up with afterwards.
Because at the moment they roll get moving your bunch of monkeys, the command squad hasn't been activated. It's still being activating.
That's right. Okay. I couldn't remember it, and so when you mentioned that, I was like, okay, hey, yeah. And that's right.
You need to have already been activated in order to be reactivated. So the reactivating your own yourself as a command squad, it's already counterproductive by itself, but it's not possible with the rules as they are written right now.
Right. And yeah, it didn't really seem, even when the person that I was playing with, I was like, I'm not sure. I will, go ahead and let you do it if you really want to. I don't see why you would. Versus anything else. And he ended up agreeing with me, and then I was reading it later, and that's what I was trying to remember, because I did remember that there was something about it.
And actually, after checking air traffic control, again, I'm making a mistake. It's written the same way as get moving a bunch of monkeys. So you have to have already been activated before you can be reactivated. So she cannot reactivate herself. Ooh, I've been cheating.
You've been cheating?
Yeah.
All those wins that you had.
With SSU, absolutely zero. I suck with this army. It's absolutely abominable. I do lists that makes no sense, and I struggle. It's horrible. I want to play everything at the same time, and obviously everything is too expensive to play everything. So yeah, it's really complicated with the SSU right now. My youngest daughter is actually better than me at making army lists. She does some very nasty SSU army lists lately, so It's pretty nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, speaking of nasty and SSU and, list building, because it seems to be a default, take all the tanks you want, but, save 21 points because you should be taking Winter Child. First of all, I remember a statement from someone named Greg. He said that people in melee combat only get 2 hits because they only have 2 fists. Winter Child says screw that and gets 3.
Yeah, actually, he gets more than that. But yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he gets 6.
He gets 6. Right. Yeah, but we're talking about a superhuman here, so it's like ranting about the fact that Superman is overpowered. So Winter Child is again so SSU. First, his armor is 4. His movement is quite fast. He's flying. Again, he's superhuman with damage resilient. So
yeah,
that means that he's gonna have his infantry save on a faction logo or a target, or a shield, and then after that he's gonna have damage resilience. His main exception is not only the fact that he hits 6 times in melee, but also that with his fists he can actually one-shot any infantry in the game. And that is the only exception to the rule that Olivier set up with Dust 1947 that says when you hit infantry, whatever the weapon, it causes 1 damage on an infantry unit. And this one doesn't. It auto-kills. So on infantry squads, it won't change anything. They have 1 HP each, so every time you hit, you would kill 1 anyway. But on a hero, that will change a lot of things, because that means that every time he hits, he kills.
Yep.
And that is phenomenal.
In the words of Ash Barker, that's bananas.
Yeah, is really the best representative of everything that is superlative in the SSU. So a lot of people think that he should be more expensive, that he should have less power, and it's something that, first, when you play it, you realize that no is not broken. But there's also something that they need to realize or understand, is that contrary to a lot of games they are used to, army points in our game are not just an absolute value for you to understand how to build your army. It's also the representation of the power of the miniature. And if Winter Child is only, and I say only between really huge quotation marks, only 21 points, it's because he's superhuman. And the point value that he has is exactly like for Sergeant Victory. It's lower than what it would be expected to be, because he's a superhuman. And that we have the way the game is set up, we have a game that relies heavily on dice recursion. Okay, so you roll a certain amount of dice, you reroll them eventually, and you have 3 sides on the dice. That means that you have 33, 66, or if you have rerolls, it goes up to 75 or 80% chance of hitting. Okay, so you're limited by the mechanism of the dice to a certain amount of combinations with these dice. So either we were putting Winter Child at 21 points, or we were putting him at 40, but he would have 19 dice.
I mean, he's not far behind that anyways, because
he still has some, there's still some, there are really some space before we go really completely stupid with Winter Child. He has a lot of dice by itself, but again, he doesn't have that much more dice than anyone else. And he's still fragile, and he still has some vulnerability. Again, a good flamer, you can be armor 4 with them with superhuman. You lose your superhuman save, and armor 4, you still have one damage on you. So a good flamer can help. So
you need a lot of flamers.
Yeah, you're gonna need 6 shots of flamers or snipers or this kind of thing. So yeah, it's convenient.
Because we've actually only talked about his fists, which can also punch planes out of the air.
Yes.
But then he also has radiation beams, and not just one, but 2 of them.
Yes. Radiation is a very nice ability. That means that you have your enemy reroll their save when it's successful.
when it's successful, he gets a lot of tries to make it successful.
Well, it's a blast weapon, so yeah, you're gonna have 1 try per target on the square that you're aiming at. So indeed, it can wreak a lot of havoc in your lines if you don't take care of him right away. So it's 21 points that you have to take care of right away. That is true.
And it's an interesting thing you say when you mentioned that for Dust, points aren't always indicative of value, worth, things of that nature, because it's I don't know, it's points are such a hard measurement. It should it should tell me roughly what value is on that. And it doesn't mean that 21 points of Winter Child is definitely equal to 21 points of PLA infantry.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in the combination of what you pair it with. The rest of your army changes the value of what it becomes in play.
Right.
A lot of miniature players think that each miniature has an absolute value, and by adding their absolute values, they get an absolute value of their group. But that's not true. And you will have some miniatures that create some synergies between each other. The commissars, for example, that I was mentioning, by themselves, they are never worth 3 points. But they go in a unit, and this unit is only 5 points. And suddenly you have a unit for 8 points that has a heavy weapon, 1 more HP, 1 more possibility to target something else. So the taking into consideration points should never be taken by comparing 1 to 1. It's, if I put Winter Child in a list that is built this way, what does it do? If I build the list differently, what does it do? This is the principle of playtest. Okay, I'm not teaching you anything here. You've done it. So, and it's really that. It's, yes, it's worth 21 points. And on the paper, the first time you read the card, you go, wow. Because for 21 points, you have a Vladimir. Okay, it's a tank, artillery, armor 7, damage resilient. Okay, that takes 2 boxes, that can shoot absolutely anything on the table, including planes. That has 4 weapons. So it's in 7 HPs. So it's no joke, It's actually harder to kill than Winter Child. But then I'm going to put Winter Child in front of the tank, and I'm going to kill the tank with Winter Child, where the tank is going to have some issues killing Winter Child. Does that mean that the Vladimir is not worth 21 points? No. That means that these 21 points are parts of the stats of the Vladimir to justify the fact that against infantry, it's going to be really good. And against some medium armor vehicle, it's still going to be really good. So the taking into consideration army points in a list really means in a list and not just by itself. So, and it's something that is really complicated to explain to anyone who hasn't been dabbling with game design and with play tests and these kind of things. Because yes, at a point, Winter Child, the decision was made to make it a little cheaper because he still has some fragilities, and it's going to be a magnet. He's going to attract shots from everywhere. And at a point, when you get saturated with shots, because it's a game, again, that relies on rolling dice a lot, you will die mechanically. you will have some spikes in your dice roll that sometimes make you do some crazy stuff like surviving 18 shots, because it happens. But most of the time these 18 shots will kill you, because in the end of the day you still have 1 chance out of 3 to survive because you're just an infantry. So, and again, if you have weapons that suppress your save, like snipers, like flamers, you won't have your infantry save. So it's really, but we're deviating a little bit because it's a debate about balancing a game and the utility of points in a miniature game. But Winterchild by itself is really a very powerful weapon at the service of the SSU. That there's absolutely no doubt that it's really interesting to play when you're an SSU player, because it will bring you multiple solutions against multiple targets, and that creates comfort. You will have some crazy games where he's gonna kill 80 points of the over 100 points army, and you're gonna have crazy games where it's gonna be basically shot down in round 2, right after entering the table, so without doing anything. And I say that by experience because that's what happened to me. So,
well, but you've already admitted you're just a bad SSU player.
True. But I was actually shooting at the Winterchild. So it was during a tournament, and I faced 2 SSU players back to back. Both of them had the Winterchild, and both of them lost the Winterchild and the game because they deserved it. Goddamn commies.
Chivalry.
So yeah, the Winterchild is really something that you have to take into consideration when you build your army list, because it's a nice option. But again, 21 points means that you're going to sacrifice a lot of points. It's more than 1/5 of your army on one miniature. And that is something that you have to think about when it's time to count the number of activations that you have on these kind of things. So nice, but not as auto-include as people would like to pretend it is.
Interesting. All right. He's sorry, I was just gonna finish that up with just saying that he is definitely an interesting character. I definitely still say he's a whole lot of shenanigans.
Yes, he is.
But yeah. All right. So Red Army. Is there anything else in the Red Army that we haven't really touched on?
Well, we didn't go through all the different flyers.
Oh, this is true.
But honestly, it's going to go really fast. You have the transport helicopters and the assault helicopters that are meant to shoot a lot of stuff really fast. The options that are offered to you are always in 1 or 2 points differences. So the gameplay is going to be similar, depending on, again, if you take a blaster, a burster, or a striker, basically, you're going to do the same thing. It's just that your target is going to change depending on the amount of and the type of bomb that you chose, or the type of gun that you have on the chopper. You have the carrier for 7 points that is a airlifter that can take an air mobile unit and transport it. So we're talking about the KV-47. So that is something really, again, exclusive to the SSU. But we already touched it, so that's pretty much all.
It is crazy. And yes, I mean, I've seen games where there's helicopters everywhere. And
yes,
they're loaded with guns, and then all of a sudden you have guys popping out of them too. Or you have all of a sudden walkers dropping, and you're like, where did those come from? Oh yeah, I was carrying them in.
Yes, we're going to talk about it actually for the Spetsnaz and also for the Red Guard, because you have some possibilities with choppers that are really funny. Strangely, not necessarily with the Red Army, but But if you're willing to mix factions or to not make the choppers your main faction and just add them as a block, you will be able to do some really funny stuff. So actually, that's my transition, I would say, towards